Hello, Seekers, and thanks again for joining me on my personal faith walk, my own road to redemption. And this week, what I'd like to talk to you about is the next class. For me, this is Biblical Interpretation and Application. And I believe this is my 5th class through Grand Canyon University. And you're all going to get tired of me saying this, but I learned a ton in this class. And I want to take a second and speak to that. I've read some of the reviews of people who've gone through similar courses for me, and they just felt like they didn't learn a lot. And I want to start with, I definitely believe wholeheartedly that school is a lot of what you put into it is what you get out of it. So I'm going to give you an example. In the classes I'm taking, you have required reading. And let's just say that the required reading for 1 week is a chapter. And let's say that an average chapter is 25 pages. Then, besides the reading of the 25 pages, you will have, for sure, a couple of optional readings. And for me, I know that I could just take the worksheet, which is common for you to get a worksheet, take the worksheet and just search keywords because you get it in PDF format, and just find what you're looking for, copy, paste it into the worksheet, and hit submit. And I'm going to tell you that I just don't learn as much that way. So I personally spend my time reading those 25 pages from every single word, and I've learned that it's great if you have the worksheet open and you read the first question and then you start reading through the chapter. So that way, as soon as you come across what seems to be the answer, you can start working it. And it slows down my reading quite a bit, but it ups my retention and my learning. So that's just for me. But I just want to say this to people. If you're going to school and all you're there is for a certificate, I don't think you should complain about how much you learn or don't learn, to be honest with you. I really think that you're there just to bare minimum do the hoops and get out. But if you want to come out of school with some actual knowledge and then hopefully start to apply that knowledge and it turns to wisdom, you got to put a lot into it. So that's my encouragement for this. The biblical interpretation and application class, focusing back on that as to what it is. The beginning part of that class was definitely talking about what is a Bible and what's the difference between an NIV or an ESV. And for those who don't know, NIV is the New International Version and ESV is the English Standard Version. And I'm going to use those as the example, but it's basically the difference is if the Greek says it one way, do you translate that into an exact word-for-word translation, which would be closer to the ESV? And then when you do that, do you accept that there's going to be some sentences that are hard to read? Because the word-for-word translation doesn't really make a ton of sense in English. And the contrary to that is, do you do a thought for thought, where you're no longer, the thought is Jesus, but the way it's worded isn't exactly that, so you translate it to English so that it has more of a thought for thought translation, and that would be more of the NIV. I talked a lot about what's the pros of one, what's the cons of one, and we went through a lot of that. And I had never obviously considered that at all. I'd always been an NIV guy, as much as people want to throw stones at me and say that's the non-inspired version. Just pointing out that that's the one I've always read from. But some of the more thought-provoking questions that came up from this class, and I want to share them with you, one of them was, why is it hard to separate your own needs and wants from the way you interpret and apply Scripture? Do individuals even need to do this? And how can incorrect interpretation lead to an imbalance in spiritual life and as a ministry leader? And man, is that an amazing question to ask. And I'm just going to point that out, that if you're sitting in a Bible study right now, and I want you to be sitting in a Bible study, but if you're not, and join one. But if you are, and at the end of every passage, whether you're reading one sentence or one verse, I guess is a better way to say it, if you're reading one verse or you're reading an entire section of the Bible in one go. If at the end of that, the question that everybody's asking is, what do you think it means? This class dead stops you from that. It very much reminds you that it's not what you want the Bible to read. And the cool part is the way that they explain it is so awesome. They talk about it and they give you this image is, are you lording over the Bible, telling it what you want it to say? Or are you holding it up in humility, kneeling before it, begging God to give you the answers that it has for you? And remember, one of the most important parts about that sentence is that God sometimes gives you answers that you don't want to hear. And sometimes the path that he lays before you isn't the one that you wanted. But as you grow stronger in faith, you begin to accept that it's the one that you needed. And God knows best for you. So this was just an amazing class again. And I really encourage you that if you're like me and you can't just go to the library and get a book, sit down, force yourself to read it, and then write like a 1,000-word essay on what you read. I would encourage you to go to school. It really has helped me and developed in ways I can't even begin to describe to you, although expensive. And part of the reason why I'm doing this ministry is to help myself get through it because the cost is so exuberant. I'm really grateful for those of you seekers who come and join with me every week and listen to me rant through some of this and talk through it, because it is the walk that I'm getting. And it's an inspirational growth for me, and it's so moving how much I've grown in my personal relationship with Christ. And what I'm doing with it now is bringing it to you, and I'm trying to bring it to others. So please, as always, if you feel compelled, it's really helpful if you like these videos, if you subscribe, if you share it with others, super helpful. I'm greatly appreciative. And if you feel so compelled, my link will be in the bottom for if you want to donate to my cause. Again, thank you all and God bless.